Hi, it's Rebecca here. Today I like to make another card using products from the Well Done suite. In the last card that I made, I just used the stamp set here as well as the punch. This time I'm going to bring in some of the lovely sheer pool party ribbon, the beautiful Whale of a Time sequins, and the lovely 6x6 paper. So I'm just going to pop those aside and show you the card that we're going to make today. So for this I used some Calypso coral for the background. Here's the pieces here. So Calypso coral, so this was a standard A4 size cut in half, so whatever size that you use in your region, just cut it along the middle, and I just scored that in half. I also used a piece of shaded spruce, so all the colours I'm using actually coordinate with the designer series paper. So again, I cut this the length of my card base, and this is 8 centimeters, which is roughly about 3 1/8 of an inch going that way, and this way is of course your card base length. I've got here a sheet of the half a sheet of the DSP, so that's the other side there, and also a wee piece of ribbon which measures around 11 centimeters, or if I've measured this right, 4 3/8 of an inch. So it's just enough just to be able to wrap around your base, and then you have a little bit to fold over. So I've used, so here's the full sheet of the 6x6. So up this way you've got a sort of lower mound and a sort of slightly steeper higher one there, so no two cards look the same, and also you can see the light coming through, so it's really beautiful. And then you've got your wee fish of course on the other side. I'll just move these away, and then I've got the lovely image of the turtle. It's from this sheet here, and you get all these different turtles, all different colours, and some are slightly bigger than the others, so you can cut out as many of those as you like. And I love the little expressions on their faces, they're very sweet. And you've got this sort of fishnet look on the other side. And this little fellow here, this tiny wee crab, come from this sheet here. There are different size crabs, so you could just use this sheet on its own and make a lovely card, or if you're like me and like your fussy cutting, you can cut out all your lovely little images. And then on the other side you've got this lovely sort of speckledy water effect, which is also very lovely. I also used for this card, now I should have done my research but much better and looked up the name of this. I can never remember what it is. I'm sure someone out there will know. I think it's the Lovely Label punch. It also coordinates with another set from the annual catalogue, and it's really bad of me not to know what it is. But anyway, with this stamp here, sorry, this punch here, you get the different measurements. So the smallest slot takes, it's 1/2 inch. The next one is 3/4 of an inch, and the last one is 1 inch. And you can see you've got two different designs. It's more of a scallopy one and a more sort of square one there, which is lovely. So you could do all your lovely little tags and banners with that. So I'll show you some few tips on how to use that as well. Right, so let's just put this card aside and we'll start putting it together. Oh, before I forget, also the colours I think that we used is, this is older style ink pad. This is Calypso Coral, and and some blackberry bliss as well. So I'll put them aside. So first I'm just going to take my card base here, and I've already, you can just see, I've just, maybe that way, pre-scored it there. It just makes it easier to fold, and then I'm going to bring in my bone folder and just crease that down there. There we go. Right, so I'll pop that to one side, and then I'm going to bring in, actually I'm going to bring it back again, sorry, I'm just thinking. I'm going to just place this part on here, this piece here, and see I've got it flush from the top and the bottom. If you wanted to, you could always just leave a little bit of overage so you can trim it down if you need to. But what I'm going to do, I don't know if you can see here, I've stamped all these lovely little fish. It's a good thing about this paper, you can stamp on it and it just gives it a bit more of a dimension. So for this I like to do, I like going off the side, and it just again it's all about dimension as well, and it just sort of makes it, just gives it a bit more interest. So I'm just going to pop that aside again, and I'm going to bring in my lovely little fishes, and you can see it has been stained, but it doesn't affect the stamping at all. And the good thing about this is it's asymmetrical, so if I turn it around the other way, they're going to look exactly the same. So I'm just going to get my Calypso Coral and open that up, and I'm going to just ink that up there, make sure I've got no ink on my block. So I'm going to stamp on the card base and on here, so just randomly anywhere you like, and I am going to just stamp it off. Again, that sort of gives it a bit more dimension, and of course when you see schools of fish, they're all sort of all, you know, grouped together, and also having the lighter ones looks like it's further away. And I'm going to turn around and come on the other side, and I'm going to might bring this down a bit more into sort of all the seaweed and plants at the bottom. There we go. I'm just randomly stamping them off. Right, I'm just going to move that off now. You can see I've got some fish there. So the reason why I did that was so it's easier to line the fish up, so it looks like they're just all swimming in that way. I don't know, it probably doesn't make sense, but anyway, it just makes it easier just for lining it up. I'm just going to stamp just a couple more extra on the other side as well. Oops. Try and go over that one again. There we go. Right. So there we go. You can sort of see, if I line it up there, it just sort of looks like it's sort of continuously and flowing over the page. Right, or the paper. Right, I can put that colour away now. And I'm going to get my shaded spruce. So that's just going to go on there, and it just gets a little bit of a hint of the green on either side, just to give a bit of a border. So I'm going to bring my Tombow in for that. Here we go. So again, just a little bit around the outside. I've got a bit of a blob there, so I'm just going to even that out. There we go. And I'm going to pop this. Now making sure I get the part with a nice edge. There's always a good side and a bad side, so we want our good side showing up. I'm just going to place them in there, and the good thing about using the Tombow is it gives me a little bit of wriggle room to get that into position. There we go. It doesn't look much there. Of course, when you stick it on the Calypso Coral, that green just really pops. So now what I'm going to do is turn that over, and I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Seal. This is the new Stampin' Seal in the Stampin' Up catalogue. So I'm wanting my ribbon just to sort of come across there. I don't actually use ribbon a lot, so my goal was for this year to try and use up as much ribbon as I can in different ways. So you can just, you know, you don't have to use them for bows, so it's just nice to add a little bit of texture, or it's a good way to cover up joins and things like that. But I'm just going to put just a little bit there and just flick it away, and a wee bit on the other side. See, it's gone a bit stringy there, but I'll just break that with my finger. There we go. And I'm just going to just, there we go, put a wee bit on there. And good with this glue, it is good for the lighter weight ribbon. I think if you're going to use the more heavier ribbon, you're probably best to get the Stampin' Seal Plus. And I'm just going to pull that tight along. You don't want it too tight because you don't want it to bow, but just enough just to wrap around, and you just want to make sure it's even there. And the thing is, if you don't get it right, at least with the Stampin' Seal, you can remove it and straighten it up. So I'm quite happy with that. So I can go now and stick that onto my base. I'm going to go back to my Tombow, which is my glue of choice. I think everyone's got their favourite glue that they like to use. There we go, that's really quick and easy there. And you don't need a lot because it's so tacky. There we go, bring this back in, and just again I'm going to line it up with the bottom, and I want a sort of even border on either side. I don't usually do a lot of my things dead centre, I usually like them off centre. That's probably why I like sort of going off the edges, and one side's higher than the other. So there you go, it's got the lovely card like that. So now I'm going to show you, I'll bring this back in, a wee trick or some wee tips how to use or how to do the labels using this lovely punch, which I can't remember the name, and I don't have my catalogue anywhere close where I can grab it, but I'm sure again, you know, there'll be someone out there that will know the name. So I'm just going to put those aside. It's the trouble, you always think that you're prepared and you're never quite prepared when you make these videos. Right, so I've got here some strips of, I've got a Whisper White here, and this is at 3/4 of an inch. And I always make it just a little bit not so wide, because sometimes if you do it exactly the width, it can be quite tight. So I just make it just a hair of 3/4 of an inch, and I've also got a piece here that's an inch. So again, I made it just a tiny little bit shorter in the width. Right, so I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to thread it through this one here. So just pass that through the groove and make sure it hits the back. Now this one, it's actually not too heavy, so I'm able to switch it over, flip it over. You can sort of see that kind of moves around a bit. So I just want to just make sure it's in place. And because if you go too far that way, it's not gonna, you're not gonna get a nice sort of even punch. So you need to make sure it's lined up. And I'm going to just punch that out. There we go. I'm going to keep that little piece there. So here we go, look at that. Ooh, it's a little bit off. Maybe my measurements weren't quite right with my paper, but that's okay. That's all right. I have got another one that I did earlier, but I'll just use this one just to show you. So now I'm going to stamp. So I've got the hoping all your birthday fishes come true. So I've got lovely Blackberry Bliss. I'll just move those away, and I'll ink this up. Again, just tapping. There we go. Looks like there's plenty of ink on there. And again, you want to have your good side. I'm just going to stamp it there. I find if you're going to be using thinner bits of card, it's always good to use a slightly bigger block, that way that you can see on either side. So I'm just going to just stamp that where I want it. There we go, just hold that down. There we go. Right, let's pop that aside. Now I'm just going to bring in this little piece here, and I'm just going to line it up so you've got even amount of side on either side, so that's actually pretty good. And I'm going to just do a mark on that side there, and I've got my trimmer, so hang on a minute, just got to reach over. So I've got my trimmer here. Actually, I'll use the side here. So I'm just going to line this wee dot up. That's about right. And make sure I use the right blade. So I want my darker grey one. So again, this is one of the new trimmer from the Stampin' Up annual catalogue. So I'm just going to trim across. I've gone a little bit over, but that's okay. I'll just pop that aside. So now this is quite short, and if I try and put that in there, you can see it's going to get lost. So I'll just try and as you can see, there it goes. Right, so the trick is to make a little handle, and it's good. I've seen lots of different videos to get lots of these tips. So you want the handle the same size, the same width I should say, as your piece. And I've just used a bit of snail on it. You could use a bit of tear and tape. Sorry, I've just noticed that my ink pad was open and something was just about to move in it. So I'm just going to close that. I found if I used a glue dot, it set too high and it moved around. So this is what I've done earlier, and it's good to keep your scraps. So this is one I've just cut down to the size I need it. So this is 3/4, and I'm going to put the shaped side over here. And I don't want to push it down too hard because I don't want it to rip, but just enough just to hold it in place. So there you go, you've got a nice long handle. So I can thread that through. So now I've got the straight end there, and I'm going to thread that in, and I can turn it over, and I'll make sure I lined it up a bit better this time. There we go. About there. That's it, and punch this out. There. You can sort of see it there. Again, I must have done that, not measured it quite right. And I can just peel that off. But here's one that I did earlier. I don't know if you can notice the difference. Actually, one's longer than the other. So that's the thing. It's never going to be the same size twice. I'll just use that. I'll use the one I did earlier. And sometimes you might get a few little creases. So the trick for that is, I don't know if you can see any creases, but I can just see some through here. But you just get your bone folder. Use the side, and you can just sort of push those out, and it just gives it a bit nicer, a nicer finish. But anyway, I'll put that aside. So the next part is I've made a wee sort of a layering base under that. Of course, for this card you could use any sentiment or any punch or die that you like, but I thought it'd be just nice to use my punch since I hadn't used it a lot. So again, it's the same sort of concept. I've got here a piece in Blackberry Bliss, and this is 1 inch wide, and I didn't write down what it is in centimetres. But sometimes it's easier, I find, when you're doing things like this, just to go in inches, but depending on what you want to do. Sorry, I'm just sort of rambling on a bit. Right, I'm going to feed that through, so it's going to go the big, actually I noticed there's these spots, I'll turn it over. Yeah, I often go in between inches and centimetres, but because it's such an odd number, it's just easier to say, you know, an inch than, you know, 5.2 centimetres or something like that. So anyway, I'm going to punch that out. There we go. That's a wee bit better. So again, I'm going to keep that piece there and put that aside, and I'm going to bring in my wee banner, and I'm just going to lay it up so I just got a nice even border, and I'll bring in this other piece there and I'll line that up. It's pretty good. And I'll get my wee pencil again, wee mark, and just to save time I'm just going to use my scissors. There we go. It's not too bad. Right, and then again I've put just a bit of snail on again, so you could use tear and tape as well, and I think that's about the same size. Oops, put it the wrong way. Right, here we go. So remember the flat end there, and I'm going to thread it through like that and make sure it's lined up. You can see it's slightly off there, and if I just punched it like I was going to before, it would have been all uneven. There we go. Right, punch it out. Oops, pops out. There we go. Oh, made a bit of a mess over here. Just clear some space. Right, and I can just peel that off. There we go. So if you want to, you can keep that and use it again another time, or just cut that bit off and you can use your wee scrap for something else. There we go. Just pops on like that. I could have, here's my card. I could have just, if I wanted to, just had it like that. And it looks perfectly fine, but I just felt it just needed something a bit more, just so it didn't get a bit lost. So I'm just going to put a couple of dimensionals. I do like to make them go a wee bit further, so I do cut them in half. I always sort of freak out when I see people sticking all these dimensionals on, and sometimes you know, just one's enough on its own, but just to make things go a little bit further, I'm just going to cut those in half and stick them on. And I don't know if you can see here, I've actually used the edges as well. So not only you get all those, you can use your edges. Here we go. I'm just going to peel, oops, the back of that off like that. Try and make my workspace nice and clean. And I'm going to put this on here. That's it. That's fairly even. I was trying not to stick it down too firm so I can move it if I need to. Right. And I can either might put it there, or you can sort of change it where you want to go. So I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the back of that. There you go. Nice to get a bit of, I suppose it's glue bogies. Very technical word. I'll just clean it up a bit. Oh, it stuck to my finger. There we go. Right, and I'm just going to pop that over there. And I just love how with the sheer ribbon you can still see the image through it. So I'm going to go slightly off and push that down. I could have just stuck the base down first and then pop my relabel on the top. So now I've got this cute little crab here that I've already cut out earlier. There is a sheet that does have the crab on it, but I found when I cut it half it was going to cut off one of the crabs. So this is just a fun way, if you wanted to, you could cut out some other creatures and you can put it anywhere you like. So I'm just gonna, it's a nice wee spot here. There we go. I don't usually use so many dimensionals for my for my projects, but just, you know, just for this one, it just makes it a bit more fun and just makes it a bit more sort of a 3D type instead of just being flat, because I think if you just put him down flat, he'd get lost. So here's my turtle that I cut out. It looks like a little wee grin. So I'm just, again, you can see I've sort of cut bits off. So I'm just going to peel those off, just like that. I'm going to place that. I've sort of got a funny one there, so it's gone a bit, so I could just sort of cover that up a bit. And there we go. Right. Oh, he looks very sweet. Right. So I could just leave it again. I could just leave it like that. It's perfectly fine. But I just found there was just a little bit of space there that just, it needed something extra. So I've got here the sequins. So I'm going to carefully take the lid off. Oh, it's a bit tight. There we go. So look at that sparkly goodness. And I love the wee little clam shells in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go fishing. I got my take my pick tool. Oops, there's one that's already popped out. So I'm just going to pop that. Oh, there's two. What's happened there? Oops. I'll put that on the side. There we go. Oh, that one's gone a bit rogue. Here we go. So I'm just going to pop that on the wee putty in there. And now I've got my glue dots. So this is an older box. There we go. And I'm just going to pop it onto there. And the good thing about the shells, they are big, so they're a lot easier to manage. So I could lift that off with my finger, or I can use the wee pointy end and just go under there and just place that. Put one on there. It's not quite on the glue, that's all right. I'll move that over. Now I'll go fishing again. I'll come in. Oh, that one looks good. And put that onto. Oops. There, like that. It's got a bit of a coating on it, so you might have to be a wee bit careful with your putty that doesn't lift up. I think that's what happened with my other one. That's all right. I go underneath and lift that up, and I can place that here. Oops. Right. There we go. That's the finished card, and I'll bring in the other one. So again, I think I sort of put them back in the same place, but this one here, the fish are in slightly different places. So even though you're using the same materials, just by doing the different stamping, no two cards going to be the same. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that, and I'll better go and look up what the name of that punch is for next time, and enjoy your day. Bye.